So guys, we're coming back with the Immigrant Chronicles, right? The story of people that are crossing, coming into United States. I will tell you probably one of the things that I hope for when talking about these things that are very personal stories. Like in this case, I'm not describing the situation of another person, just like I did in the previous video. I'm actually describing something that happened to me coming into United States. I was very young. I have no choice. My family went through a life event, one of those life-defining situations that put me in facing a reality where I have to walk away from my country to come to the United States. What I hope for, as I'm telling you this type of stories, is that you will be able to hopefully appreciate the country even a little more, and hopefully it's going to help you understand why is it there's so many immigrants, so many people that came to the country are either so grateful and see the country as an incredible blessing. And in my case, there's many things that I was able to do for my family. And of course, that alone, will forever have me indebted with the country and everything that I was able to do here. However, I was only 18 years old when I started my journey. It was only 2 other people. I know that we see all those caravans, right? Hundreds, 2, 3, 4, 1,000 people sometimes coming in together. That was not our case. We were definitely following some people because you absolutely know who's traveling, and you can tag along a little bit. When we decided to come, the reason why we really didn't go to a group or connected to a so-called coyote is because we didn't have enough money, to be honest with you. I mean, the prices then, forget about, if you look at the prices now, I mean, when somebody's paying $15,000, $20,000 to come into the country, which is an incredible amount of money, around those days, I believe that people were paying already $3,500, $5,000. There was no way in hell any of us was going to be able to come up with that money. So the question is, can you find a way? How do we do it? Who knows how to get where? Can we follow certain maps? And just by doing that alone, right, we were able to get to a certain place. Now, the second reason why I'm telling you the story is because even though there was a lot of challenges, and a lot of people will only describe the challenges that went along the way, there was also a lot of good moments and a lot of good people. Like, I want to highlight some of the good people that I came across. I spoke to about the lady that actually helped me welcome me into her home, Feros. This time I want to speak to you about a different individual. This individual, his nickname was Bunny, or the Bunny, Conejo in Spanish. Conejo was not a coyote. It was a guy that would be like a scout, like one of those guys that happened to be lookouts. And the job for him and about 4 or 5 other people will go through different routes of the country just to navigate the whole area and to see what was a complicated area or an easier place for people to travel, where there was going to be less police, less crime or organizations, less gangs, less any of those things, just to see what was the easier path for people to cross, right? So when we finally crossed into Mexico, the funny thing that took place is immediately somebody screamed, "La migra," right? Immigration. And I don't know if they do that intentionally or there was a couple of people, because here's what actually happened. The only thing that was surrounding us was like houses that we call like chocitas, right? And these chozas are made out of clay, and you have like dry palm leaf trees used as a roof, and literally the whole thing is just made out of clay. And that was the only thing that was available. When somebody screamed "La migra," we're looking around, and the first house that we were able to see, we just walked right into the house. Obviously, we were afraid that we were going to get already picked up, just barely getting to Mexico. And here is what happens. As soon as we walked into the property, that little house, that little choza, however humble it was literally set up like a grocery store. And I mean, there was a little refrigerator for the beers and, anybody that wanted to have a drink, anybody that, I'm talking about from chewing gum to you name it, to potato chips, right? So the funny thing is that, again, these things develop an economy. what they so-called the underground, not just illegal economies, but extra legal economies, as Hernando de Soto would like to describe, right? This is an extra legal activity. Everybody knows there's a little business going on in there. Obviously, they're not properly registered with anybody, right? Here we are, and the lady, again, one of the questions that I always ask, because when you're young and you obviously look a little nervous or a little concerned, you know what I mean? Everybody will ask you the same question: who are you traveling with, right? And I kept getting that question over and over, you know what I mean? And I told the lady, well, you know, there's two of us traveling together, and she said, well, my husband said, it's not a coyote, but he's one of those lookout guys. I said, he's coming back early in the morning. Why don't you wait until he gets here? And hopefully he can tell you, hopefully he had a good path. By the way, we were taking a chance, because we didn't know if the path that he went to inspect was a good one. If he came back saying, guys, no, don't, you can't even go through it right now, it's horrible, then we absolutely wasted the night, right? But because the whole idea is to keep moving forward no matter what. The guy came back, one of the nicest individuals I met throughout the trip, very friendly, very giving, a family man, you know what I mean? It's like then you see the family unit, right? Everybody already was basically gone at that point. So I'm looking at him interacting with the children, and he was sitting in a hammock as we were having a conversation. And is he just a normal guy, a good guy? You know what I mean? It's just those things where you're saying, you know, this is somebody that, for many of us right now, the question becomes, is he doing something good or is he doing something bad? But without hesitation, this man immediately decided to grab a piece of paper and said, let me map it out for you. Guys, we didn't walk like you see this caravans of this many people walking all throughout the whole country, right? And you see thousands of people sometimes coming together, right? Just for the safety of numbers, or people hitchhiking, right? We're going from in the back of pickup trucks and things like that. And there's so many generous people. Like, that's the thing, the thing about humanity, right? The thing about people is that we have the capability to be extremely good to each other when we want to, when we still have the ability to allow that spirit to come out, right? And there's so many people that will be helpful. In his case, literally grab a piece of paper and say, you're gonna go from this bus station to this bus station. We literally went from city to city, from state to state, internally crossing all along the East Coast, a little bit center, and then back to the East Coast. And that's how we ended up at the borderline of Matamoros and Brownsville, Texas. Now, looking back, one of the things that I was literally saying to myself, you know, we didn't have a lot of money. If this man would have turned around and said, the information that I'm going to give you, which I get paid for, this is my job, this is how I provide for my family, I'm not going to give it to you for free. You're going to give me some money. Well, we just didn't have enough money. If any penny that we would have gave him would have been already taken away from the ability to get to the whole facility, and we probably would have just said, okay, this is what we got, and it more than likely would have been an offensive, very small dollar amount. He didn't ask for a penny. He didn't ask for a single dollar. So we know that there's a lot of bad players, a lot of bad characters involved in human trafficking, because when you think about immigration, you have to sometimes link it to the unfortunate extreme reality of human trafficking, right? In his case, here you have a guy who, like I said, sweetheart, nice individual, great conversation, very generous, very gentle, very kind, who, again, for free gave us a pathway to be able to make it across as safe as possible. It's not that we didn't have any challenges along the way, but I sometimes ask myself, you know, people get kidnapped by so many of these bad actors that we're talking about, these drug lords and these gangs and this many big players. A lot of people die along the way. So the pathway was good enough. You know, we got robbed. We have multiple instances where it felt like we were close to something really bad happening, but not to the point of dying, at least not through that pathway. I experienced something like that later on, but not through that pathway. But what he provided, for some reason, gave me a pathway where I didn't die. And other people do die along the way. Those are, when you look back, those are hard things to process, as an individual. To say, it's like you think about divine mercy, or you think about divine purpose, or just simply purpose, if you don't want to introduce anything. It's like you kept me alive for a reason, or I was able to stay alive for a reason, however you want to process that. But here you have a good guy who, for all intended purposes, if we make a real assessment, is a good guy who's actually connected to some bad people. Because even though he's not the one collecting the money, even though he's not taking anybody to kidnapping scenarios, even though he's trying to put people through, the fact of the matter is that a lot of times the people that were responsible for paying for that information were not necessarily good actors, meaning, gang players. We're talking about, drug-related individuals. So a good guy hoping to be doing something good just to provide for his family, to feed his children, and potentially being part of something that is definitely considered even criminal in most cases. How do you reconcile that, right? How do you judge somebody like that? For a lot of people that had a horrible experience, meaning the worst thing that can actually happen is either somebody that you love dying along the way, or you dying along the way. That's obviously as bad as it gets, right? For anybody who had a very difficult situation, for somebody who had a sister or a young daughter who was sold into some kind of prostitution or sexual abuse, or somebody that was kidnapped and then tortured, and then even in some cases eventually killed. This guy, for them, they don't recognize the difference between a halfway good person who's providing for the family and a bad guy. For me, obviously, this guy was a very good person who actually did something very good for me. And in result, by doing something good for me, he was able to do something good for my family and for everything that I had been able to touch, that there was something good for someone. These are people that when you trace it back, that's part of the story. It's just part of the whole process. And so, by the way, the final thing that I want to highlight for you is that that's the story for most people that are coming into this country. Most of them, the only thing they want to do is find a way to provide for their families. They're not thinking in terms of breaking or not breaking the law. They're not thinking, they only know that maybe there is a possibility. There's a lot of great people. There's a lot of great people that we just need to find a better way to handle this immigration process. And this conversation goes for both, Democrats and Republicans. There's not one group that's actually doing a good job. If you look at a border right now, there is no way anyone can actually claim that we're doing a good job at the border. Most of them. Do we have some bad players coming? Yeah, absolutely. Do we have some people that are causing a lot of pain and harm and even taking lives away from people? 1,000%. I understand that. But most people, they just want to take a bite at that little piece of the American dream that everybody talks about, and they just want to be able to do something for their families. If you happen to be somebody that came into the country and also had some type of a journey, it doesn't have to be as extreme, but you also have some challenges coming along the way, we would love to hear your stories. What's your story? What's your chronicle? How will you describe it? Were there any key players that have something to do? Maybe you actually are having a very successful experience of the American dream and having a very good life, and you are helping your family and you are providing for them, and you are giving them hope and solutions, and you are that guy, that was able to do something for them. We would love to hear from them. If this is something that will be helpful, or they can actually give someone a little more perspective, or if this is something that at least you enjoy knowing that there are some very good people, along the way, helping people that truly need to be helped along the way and all throughout the process. I hope you enjoyed the story, the conversation, and there's definitely plenty of more that we can bring to you, and we intend to do that. So if you like it, move it around, like, subscribe, and get other people to share with us their perspective, your perspective. You know, how was your process? How was your journey, regardless of where you come from? So with that being said, guys, till the next one, looking forward to hearing from you and sharing with you. Take care now.